It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline, brought to you by CG Technology Sportsbook.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
Presented by WagerTalk.com.
Here we go. It's the Thursday edition, the draft day edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. I'm Dave Koch, and Ralph Michaels is here. Jared Justice is producing the program. Tony DiTomaso, who's the director of risk at CG Sportsbooks, will be joining us in a bit. Plenty to talk about. Now, the wagering for the draft is concluded in Nevada. It is, if you go offshore in a couple, I think one other state, they have props up still. But here in Nevada, it closed last night. But we'll find out where the action was with Tony D. And by the way, if you are into being at the draft live, obviously you can't make the actual draft live.
Not till 2020.
Right. Not till 2020.
Yeah.
You knew that was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of great draft parties today. And on Cofield and Company, we're going to have two shows wrapped into one. Because Cofield will be on, and Clay Baker's going to be on the press box. Cofield will be live from Pizza Rock at Green Valley Ranch. And Clay Baker downtown at the D.
Head to the Long Bar, and you'll find Clay just outside the Long Bar
The
D.
He'll be the one with two drinks in his hand.
Yeah, well, the Long Bar, Derek's got the Long Bar popular after everyone watching him last year with the Michigan bet. They're sitting at the Long Bar at the D.
And by the way, congratulations to Derek. Sportsbook licensing coming through. And
got approved, Circa?
Yep, got approved. Circa plus Golden Gate and the D. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if there's one other place or not, but they will.
The new hotel, the new casino, the new sports book.
It's going to be the largest sports book in the world.
It will have the biggest TV screens in Vegas.
Yep. It's going to be sensational.
And he's going to take big limits, he said.
Oh, Derek's a player.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's really exciting news. We'll try and get Derek on sometime in the next few weeks to talk about all the excitement with that. And that's good for bettors, too, because it's another out. Because they'll have their online apps and stuff like that, and then it's the more opportunities, the better. And that's why we tell you, like we've got CG on today, make sure and get their app, because on virtually anything, you can get a better line at one place than another. And a good example, we both ended up on the same one this week, and we didn't get salt beforehand. That's the interesting thing. Weird how it happens. We both took shots at the same pairing in the Zurich Classic. This week's PGA event.
Some places had 40-1.
Right. I got 70.
I got 64. So you beat me to the punch. But
the thing is, that's why you said you don't have to have big money in these accounts. You can have some, $100 here, a couple $100 there, whatever. You don't have to be a gigantic player.
Just have enough for one bet. Don't get burned on that bet you would have made by not taking the better line because you didn't have money there. That's it. 100%. Have enough for one bet and then load it if you lose it.
Right. And CG's new app is outstanding, by the way. So make sure and get yourself set up at any of their books around town, and you're going to increase your chances of winning money, which is the only reason to bet. If you're betting just for the sake of betting, that's kind of stupid. Well, it is. You may as well. No, you just go play Keno. You can have a bet going every 10 minutes or something like that.
Hey. I play Keno, and I get picked on all the time.
Well, you should. Yeah, I'm sure you're a big lifetime winner in Keno, right?
I have my numbers back from the Ohio days.
No,
so there's occasion I sit down there and I'm drinking and I throw a few bucks in and play my Keno numbers.
I will tell you that this is a little back in the day.
Brian Leonard right now is screaming at me. I could hear him. You're playing Keno, you ass. What's the matter with you?
Now, there was a rationale for it back in the day. It had nothing to do with winning, but back then, the town was a lot different then, okay? Every hotel restaurant had Keno runners. You could fill out your Keno cards in the restaurant.
With the crayons.
Right, with the crayons, and they'd have Keno runners come around. You're sitting there, and there was no big screens or anything like that in the restaurant. So if you're in there eating, you may as well amuse yourself, play $1 and tip $1 for the Keno girl. And I did. The only time I ever won at Keno, I think it was the Frontier. And I hit a 4 spot. Because that's all I played. I played my birthday and my age. So that was 4. It was a 4 spot. Month, date, year, and age. And I figured that was great because I could change it each year by one number. And I could still, if I wanted to play it now, I could still do it. because I haven't gotten to 80 yet. I've got 14 more years of Keno eligibility using my system. Anyway, I hit a 4 spot, and by the time I paid for the lunch, because it wasn't just me, and tipped out the Keno girl, I think I won about $8. Anyway, what did I want to start with? The Clippers. We got to talk about the Clippers upset. We'll talk about the impact of the sports books with Tony Dean a little bit, but that was a shocker. And so finally, some real excitement in round 1 of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, the thing about it was you read the Oakland papers yesterday, and they were talking about how they had to take this game seriously. It was a must-win. Houston was already done with their series, and it was just an embarrassment. I mean, Durant said it. He goes, we get a lead, we get lackadaisical. In the 2 losses Golden State had, they allowed 53% or higher. Mm-hmm. In the 3 wins, they've held the Clippers to 42%.
How about just devil's advocate? Maybe the Warriors aren't as good as they've been, and the Clippers are better than people think.
Well, I think the Clippers. Yeah, I mean, you put the Clippers in the East, they're probably a 5 seed or a 4 seed, at least a 5 seed.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they're better than people put perspective wise. They're not an 8 seed if you compare the East to the West.
And in the NHL, the defending champs are done. The Washington Capitals will not be winning the Stanley Cup for a second straight year as they lose in just an overtime thriller against Carolina. Hurricanes get the victory 4-3. And
no major penalties in that game?
No.
Yeah.
And yet another upset because the Capitals were good-sized favorites in the series, good-sized favorites last night. I think we'll find out from Tony D that was a very good result for the books. And again, we'll talk to Tony in about...
But I believe you and Mr. Teddy Covers were on the dog, right? Because there was value in the dog yesterday.
I leaned that way. Yeah. It was not an actual play for me, okay? It was not a selection or anything like that. So I did, but, here on the show we talked about it, and I thought the value was with Carolina, and so did Jeff.
Jeff, yeah.
Jeff Davis from Caesars. From Caesars. Yep. So we were kind of right on that one. And if you missed it, the NHL has apologized to the Golden Knights, management, staff, and players. I know there's nothing you can do about it now, but I like it that the league is admitting that the referees got it wrong. Because
didn't the NFL set the precedence with the Saints last year? Yes.
Yeah. I'd rather see that than what used to take place, and it really took place a lot in the NBA and might still take place in the NBA. But in the David Stern era, as the NBA commissioner, there was never – you do know this. In the entire duration of David Stern as commissioner of the NBA, there was not a single bad call in the history of the league. Every single call was correct.
They never apologized? I didn't know that. No.
Never.
You know what?
I'm talking about egregious stuff. I go back to it's still one of the worst calls I've ever seen in a game in the Lakers-Kings series years back. Lakers absolutely stole the series from the Kings. Absolutely horrific call, or non-call if you want to call it that, that led to Ori's game-winning basket. They got it completely wrong, and the league never said a thing about it. That's the difference between then and now. And we will see a change.
Majors get reviewed. No
Absolutely.
Question.
100%. They will make it reviewable now so that if something similar to this occurs in the future, they'll be able to look at it and make a determination. Because if replay had been available, I mean, I can't say it 100% sure, but I can say it 99% sure.
Yeah. He didn't get cross-checked to the head. Yeah.
No. There might not have even been a penalty. Yeah. It was a shove, basically. And that stuff basically doesn't ever get called. Anyway, time for us to check out our MJ Christensen Thursday edition of the 4 at 4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put the 4s up. Put the 4s up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
Nuggets and Spurs will be the marquee matchup. We'll talk about that later in the show. Right now, we'll do a little NHL and a little MLB. And we'll start with the Dallas Stars and St. Louis Blues, which I think is a pretty compelling series, even though neither of these teams was projected to get this far. At one time this season, the Blues had the worst team in the league. They were the worst record in the league back in December. And here they are in the second round of the playoffs, and the Dallas Stars come through with an impressive showing against the Nashville Predators. I think the Blues might be the right side in this game and this series based on the matchup. But I want to watch the game to see if that's actually the case. Dallas didn't dominate Nashville. Okay, even strength, the teams were basically, I think they were separated by 1 goal.
15 for 15 in penalty kills.
That was, and, well, it was the Nashville power play, which was, and we said this yesterday, very possibly the worst in the history of the NHL. 12-point-something% in the regular season, worst in the league. 0% in the NHL playoffs. 0 for 15, including 0 for 4 in the last game. And that's why Dallas won the series. And it wasn't so much their penalty killing as the fact that Nashville can't score on the power play against anybody. I thought St. Louis was more impressive in their series victory over Winnipeg, so I give them the nod here. But you know what? I got priced off at minus 140 range. I'd have gotten involved. 55, nah, I left it alone.
Question for you. I mean, this is only their second time in the second round in the last 9 years, and the only other time was against the Blues in 2016, a 7-game series. In the playoffs, in the NBA playoffs, I think a team has to learn how to have been there and done that. Same hold true in the NHL?
No.
No? Okay. We talked about the parity.
You want a good example? The Vegas Golden Knights.
Okay.
Who last year went to the Stanley Cup Finals with guys that had never played in the same team together.
Okay, fair enough.
So no pick for me there. Blue Jackets and Bruins. Now maybe, and this is not borne out in terms of actual record keeping, it's more of a sense of what can happen rather than here are the numbers in black and white, because the numbers in black and white really don't bear it out. It's kind of 50-50. But I like the idea of taking the team that is fresh out. I know it was a 7-game series, but fresh out of a series where they just played well and got an impressive win to capture the series against a team that haven't played in 8 days. And you can get a little stale. So to me, maybe a little first period advantage for the Bruins here. You'll have to lay minus 140, though, even for the first period. So that, I don't know. It's not a bargain price, let's put it that way. But removing the price, I think the Bruins have a good chance to get the early lead in this game.
Yeah, well, that number, Dave, is 34 and 54 teams with 4 or more days rest in the NHL playoffs. So, that certainly points to your Boston side. But remember, the Blue Jackets are the second best road record in the NHL this year behind Tampa. And boy, after going down 3-0 to Tampa in the first period, what do? They outscore them 19-5 the rest of the way.
And they played brilliantly. So I'm not comfortable with the price. Lean would be on the Bruins.
The series, 9 of the last 10 have gone over between Columbus and Boston.
There you go. Baseball tonight, Braves and Reds, and the erratic Julio Teheran on the mound for Atlanta. Your guess is as good as mine on Teheran. Look, if he's got his command of his slider, he's very good because that sets up his kind of so-so fastball, and he can be very tough. But if he's not commanding his slider, then the fastball becomes really hittable, and he gets blown up. So you look at Teheran's 5 starts. He's had 4 starts that qualified as extreme to me. 2 were really bad, 2 were really good. His first start of the year was kind of in the middle. Castillo's the guy right now. I mean, these numbers, holy cow. 30 and 2/3 innings, 13 hits, and 41 strikeouts. Now, the control's still a little bit of an issue. He's still going to walk guys, but he is just, his late movement on his ball is just incredible. And I suppose he's due for some regression, but until he starts regressing, I would not go against Castillo.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a bigger home road split in baseball tonight. Teheran on the road, 3 starts, 8.59 ERA. Castillo at home, 3 starts, 0.92. Yeah, the Reds are a favorite, but deservedly so.
They should be the favorite in this game. And Indians and Astros, and this is the most compelling game of the night. To me, it's the marquee matchup because it's the second time. They did it once last year, and I'll tell you about that game in a second. But this is the rivalry. Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole, the former UCLA teammates, and they don't like each other. That's not a secret, and it's not any hype. They can't stand one another. Last year, they matched up in late May. Final score was 10-9. Whoops. But if you look inside the box score, you'll see that both pitchers actually were pretty good while they were out. There was a 3-1 game into the 6th inning. And then the bullpens blew up. First 5 under. It's only 4. But